late 1950s rock and roll announced itself with physical force. It was a movement built on driving backbeats, hip-gyrating swagger, and aggressive machismo. But right in the middle of all that youthful rebellion stood Roy Orbison. He was a quiet man with crippling stage fright, who hid behind thick prescription glasses and stood perfectly still while he performed. While his contemporaries projected impenetrable coolness and bravado, Orbison sang openly about paralyzing fear, rejection, and crying. Despite contradicting the era's standard for male performers, he achieved massive success. From 1959 to 1963, he was the top-selling American artist, even holding his own against the chart dominance of the British invasion. He commanded absolute reverence from the titans of the era. Elvis Presley called Orbison's voice the greatest he had ever heard, and the Beatles were left dumbfounded backstage, watching Orbison command 14 encores without taking a single step. This raises a central mystery. How did a tragic, motionless misfit engineer the most emotionally devastating and dominant pop songs in music history? Orbison's first major recording contract at Sun Records was a false start. Executives there pushed him to conform to the standard hip-shaking rockabilly model. This era resulted in commercial and artistic failure. The rockabilly machine suffocated him because Orbison was, at his core, a dramatic balladeer. He eventually moved to Monument Records, where producer Fred Foster gave him the freedom to utilize sweeping classical string orchestras instead of standard rock instrumentation. The orchestral texture was only the first step. To find his true voice, Orbison began dismantling the core rules of pop music composition. This diagram shows the rigid architecture of a standard 1960s pop song. Most radio hits rely on this sequence of repeating hooks, alternating verses with a familiar, catchy chorus. Orbison's masterpiece, In Dreams, ignores this formula. The song functions as a continuous, escalating mini-opera, with the movements reforming as a sequence of 7 distinct parts that never repeat. He took the opposite approach for Running Scared. He achieved psychological tension by stacking the same verse endlessly, building suspense until it finally resolves in a massive climax. Capturing that final climax required extreme effort from Orbison's 3 to 4 octave voice. During the recording of Running Scared, producers built a makeshift isolation booth out of coat racks. This was the only way to prevent Orbison's natural full voice high A from bleeding into the orchestral microphones. A full voice high A is a powerful note hit without using falsetto, which is the thinner, breathier register singers often use to reach high pitches. Because he lacked formal musical training, he didn't know he was breaking the rules. He architected songs that mirrored the chaotic, unpredictable escalation of panic and heartbreak. In the late 1960s, the apocalyptic grief and loss Orbison engineered in his ballads manifested in his own life. The tragedy began in 1966, when his wife Claudette was killed in a motorcycle crash. Just 2 years later, while Orbison was on tour, his 2 eldest sons perished when his house caught fire. Profound grief made it impossible for him to write. Meanwhile, the louder, psychedelic counterculture of the 1970s made his orchestral ballads seem like relics of a previous era. His man in black persona shifted from a stylistic choice to a literal reflection of his grief. He was now a man physically weighed down by years of lived tragedy. By the 1980s, a new generation embraced his records as dark, postmodern masterpieces of apocalyptic romanticism. Apocalyptic romanticism is a style that treats love and loss with world-ending, catastrophic stakes. This revival was driven by high-profile supporters. Filmmaker David Lynch utilized In Dreams for a key scene in Blue Velvet, and Bruce Springsteen delivered a passionate speech inducting Orbison into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This led to a full musical resurrection. Orbison co-founded the supergroup Traveling Wilburys alongside Bob Dylan, George Harrison, and Tom Petty, reclaiming his status at the top of the industry. But the triumph was brief. Orbison died of a heart attack at age 52, just weeks before his solo comeback album Mystery Girl achieved record-breaking posthumous success. Roy Orbison proved that true rock and roll rebellion didn't require volume or physical swagger. By making it acceptable for men to sing openly about paralyzing fear and vulnerability, he proved that an artist could weaponize a broken heart.